Asaf, hi. We didn't get a chance to talk earlier. I wasn't able to make it to our little dress rehearsal, so this is our first time face-to-face. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's
No,
very
thanks for
exciting
being
to be
here.
here.
Do you want to give a 30-second overview of, I guess, you and Elementor and what those things are, in case there's people who don't know?
Yes, for sure. So I'm a product marketing lead at Elementor. Who the people who doesn't know what Elementor is the website builder on top of WordPress. I can hear myself twice. That's why I'm
Oh
like
no,
a little
let
bit.
me. Is that me? Do I need to mute myself? No, I think I'm good.
So anyway, I'm product marketing lead at Elementor. My team is in charge about communicating about the features and a lot of stuff. And yes, I was a product manager before. I was dealing with a lot of website builders. I used to work also in an agency. So this is my forte, I would say.
Nice, that's cool. Okay. And later at the end of this, we're going to talk a bit, as Ninka said, about some kind of more specific stuff around that. It sounds like some people are having some audio issues. I'm not. I don't think it's me. I don't hear you twice, so I think maybe we carry on and in the background see if we can work out what's going on. Otherwise, apologies to everyone if that's a bit echoey. Okay, yeah. Oh, and one thing to do a little bit of framing. So if you're not familiar with Elementor, or even if you are, maybe you didn't know there is a Yoast SEO integration into Elementor. So you can get a bunch of the stuff that you get in Yoast, normally, quote unquote, also in an Elementor context. In the sidebar, you can go and do all the analysis stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely worth doing. Cool. All right. So a little bit of scene setting. This is the plan today. We're already 5 minutes in, so we'll zoom through this pretty quickly. But the plan is to go through all the usual kind of industry news. And Asaf, if at any point you have any opinions or questions or thoughts, or are bored of listening to me talk, feel free to pipe up, and I might come to you for some thoughts at some point if there's stuff that feels like it might be worth exploring. And then a bit of Yoast news, and then we'll do some discussion around my favorite topic in the world, which is website performance. But with a bit of an Elementor twist, so that'd be cool. Okay. As Nick said, if you want to learn anything more about the stuff that we talk about today, you can go to this URL. All the links to all the topics we're discussing are featured there, and you can go and learn on your own time, which is really nice. And if anything that we're talking about is confusing or a bit acronymy, or you want to know a bit more, you can go check out Yoast SEO Academy, where we do a whole bunch of training and learning courses and a bunch of free stuff, and you can come and build your expertise and all the stuff. Okay, right, that's enough of that. Let's do some news stuff. This month's news, all sorts going on. And before we get into this, I guess most importantly, I'm at Yoast HQ, which is quite fun. If you've seen this before, I usually do this from home in the UK, but now I'm here on Yoast campus, which is super exciting. Anyway, Google News. This is a little bit academic, but quite a big deal. So they've released some news that they've been working on a new AI language model, obviously AI being all the trend at the moment, that supports the most popular 1,000 or so languages in the world. What's really interesting about this, I thought, is that they don't have a specific feature in mind. It's not like we are going to use this to translate YouTube. They are trying to build kind of a single solution for all language. So there are probably lots of people who don't speak your language or don't read the language your website's written in, and they are a big audience. And if Google is putting this kind of engineering in to automate translation and to open that up, that feels like a huge deal. Like suddenly you become able to access and market to a much larger population in the world. You might also consider things like delivery, logistics, etc. The world is getting smaller, and maybe your business that only markets locally at the moment might find it easier to start marketing internationally. It's worth keeping an eye on all of this. Pretty cool. And then, thinking about performance, Asaf, you probably have some thoughts on this. Google's PageSpeed Insight tools, which is like ostensibly speed monitoring, added a bunch of new shiny toys, which is pretty cool.
Yes, that's true. Even though I feel like sometimes it's like kind of the same, but a little bit more elaborated. But it's very important.
Yeah, they've got 5 or 6 of these tools right now, which have more or less the same kind of metrics and reports. But I guess that's good in some ways. But there's some nuggets you can find by browsing around in these. Okay, let's do on. I don't know why this is a big picture of me, but we'll ignore that quietly. So Google made a significant change to the google.com homepage, which, as you might imagine, doesn't happen very often. They added a little Google Lens icon, which if you've got an Android phone, for example, you might be quite familiar with. But Google Desktop added this now as well, which feels like a big commitment to them saying that image search and the role of images in search is getting bigger and bigger. And if you've watched our show previously, you might remember us talking about some of the stuff that Google announced earlier in the year around multimodal search, where they're saying they envision a future where you might take a photo with your phone and provide a keyword. So you might take a snapshot of some pizza and say, near me. And that kind of combined context is a new type of search behavior. And they're really, really thinking this might be a big way of people behaving. I think the practical implication for an SEO strategy is make sure that you're investing in visual assets, that if you're a physical business or you sell retail products, or even if you just do insurance and lead generation, that you have high quality, interesting, valuable images that might help people to search, that might be the kinds of things that people search for, that help people discover stuff. So well worth checking out. This made me happy. We know that links are a big part of SEO. They always have been, but there is a huge part of the industry which is based on buying and trading and manipulating links, which has never really gone away. It's always been a bit of a seedy underbelly of the SEO industry. It's really nice to hear Google saying that this will become less important. And then I guess the flip side of that is things like image quality and, say, performance become much more important in turn because they're much closer to quality of experience and are you meeting your users' needs? So yeah.
You know, I like this update because there's like this industry of like, you know, having backlinks and like, let's partner to have this backlink and let's backlink to each other. And all of a sudden people can backlink to what truly matters and like to really give users like the right content that they need and want, and not just to have like this kind of partnerships in order to just get higher ranked, right?
Music to my ears. Yeah, I know we focus in the Yoast SEO plugin and stuff a lot around write great content and have a great technical architecture, but still links are important. But yeah, they're super game, they're super manipulated. It's really unpleasant. So nice to see them gradually toning that down. That's the future we want. Like the truly the best sites win, not the sites who bought the most links. It's not pleasant. Yeah, nice. So thinking about quality and user experience, again, like AI is the topic of the month of the year. Google came out and clarified, which I thought was quite helpful, unironically, that they are able, they say, to detect the difference between machine generated and human written content. And a lot of people have got hung up on that. Should I use it? Shouldn't I use AI generated content? What are the implications? And they've essentially said, you know what? It doesn't really matter too much as long as the content is still helpful. And helpful is a big word. It's deliberately vague, but it's things like, is this genuinely interesting? Does it add value? Does it have a unique perspective? Does it yada, yada, yada? And that's that sort of stuff you can do with AI-driven content, but you probably still also need some editorial oversight. It's probably easier with a human. It's not the kind of thing that AI content is good for because it's just an AI-generated content tends to reprocess and regenerate the same kind of stuff. Whereas what Google are really looking for is better stuff and new stuff and different stuff. So yeah, it was quite good to get that distinction, I thought. Why can't I move my slides forwards? There we go. So I think this happened this week. I don't know if you caught this yourself. This is super new. No, straight off, hot off the press then. Excellent. So Google added a new section to the Search Console reports about the shopping tab, which is where you list and feature your e-commerce products in Google Shopping. And increasingly, we all know that they're kind of turning up more and more often in the main search results. These systems are blending. They added like a shortcut for you to go and register and verify your site in Google Merchant Center through Google Search Console. Like 2 or 3 clicks, super easy. The really exciting bit about that is when you've done it, they will read the structured data and schema markup on your site, which we've talked about to death on this show, and use that to understand things like your price, your stock availability, etc., without you having to maintain some kind of manual integration with Merchant Center, without having feeds of data, which you have to pay for, without having to log in and configure it all. So this is really exciting. I think it's like if you're in the e-commerce space, if you retail products, going in and configuring this suddenly takes away hours and hours of work and micromanagement, and it increasingly just means that your website and your WooCommerce or Shopify implementation is like the source of truth for your catalog. Your stock status, your price, your availability is managed almost entirely through your website rather than in some separate system. I think that's really cool. Really
Very exciting.
Yeah, well, less admin, less friction, fewer barriers to competing, right? It's all good. Okay. Okay, so that's it for Google stuff. Let's do a little bit of WordPress stuff. Oh yeah, and as our friendly Yoast assistants are saying, don't forget to send in your questions and we'll get to those at the end. Good WordPress news. WordPress 6.1 is now officially out, and my word, is it faster than WordPress 6.0 and previous versions. There's so much cool stuff in this. Yeah, and there's a bunch of customization and performance and other bits, but like the performance stuff is super cool. I don't know if you saw any of the stats, Asaf, but like the difference is like huge, right?
Well, they say that there's a huge performance improvements. I haven't tested it yet. We do see some kind of not slow, but not a lot of improvements. But I guess it also depends on how many people update to this version. But I believe them. Like, so we will see it and we'll test it and we'll see how it goes, right?
Yeah, and it's how much impact you get from this is very much going to depend on your site and how big it is or how complex it is or what technology it's currently running on. But I saw some studies, and there was some controlled tests where they compared like an example site on 6.0 and older versions where they were shaving off half a second, which is pretty impressive. And we've seen some stats in the hosting industry where the overall server load of like a hosting company has 1 billion servers all running WordPress sites. The electricity cost and the processing overheads of that just go halved, which is really nice from an environmental perspective, a whole bunch of other things, etc. I've just seen a question from Amanda, which I'll just pull out, saying, how long would you wait to update 6.1? It's a really good question. I guess with major updates, do you want to do it like, no, don't just update on a live site, right? In a test site, maybe set up a staging environment, maybe wait a few days and get like a patch version, but major updates are probably going to be fine. And if your competitor sites are now faster than yours, then every day you wait, I guess, is going to potentially widen that gap. So it's a tricky trade-off. Thinking of performance, this is the theme for the week, isn't it? We just shipped Yoast SEO updates to all of our plugins, actually, to make them compatible with WooCommerce's high-performance order storage feature, which is hard to say, which just essentially guarantees that our stuff is fast and does not slow down WooCommerce, which is quite a nice little badge to have on it. I wonder how many other plugins we'll see do that over the next year or so and make sure that they're compliant. I guess you'll know a lot more about this, that a lot of plugins, especially the kind of page builder space, are not fast and might struggle to achieve this. But thankfully, we've shipped it pretty quickly, so that's good. We're ahead of the curve. Okay, some social media, because everybody loves social media. Everybody loves the dumpster fire that is currently Twitter. I bet. I wonder if anyone has not seen what's going on with this and how big and terrifying it is, right? So Elon Musk bought Twitter and then proceeded to go crazy and is seemingly just tearing the place aside from the inside out. Whether that's intentional or not is hard to say, but it looks like chaos from the outside. It looks like they've lost all vision and strategy, and the technology is falling apart and the brand is falling apart. I think that's important from an SEO perspective because Twitter is quite important to the SEO ecosystem. It's quite a large educational and learning hub there. It's where a lot of SEO people learn from each other and hang out. But more broadly, it's where content gets shared and discovered. And content needs to be shared and discovered in order for people to find it and link to it. So like if Twitter dies or falls apart or is reduced, that might have quite a big impact on your SEO strategy. If you're reliant on people socially sharing and promoting your content, that might become harder. It doesn't look like there's a good replacement or alternative for it yet. Certainly LinkedIn is not the greatest platform in the world. And Mastodon, that might be the alternative, is quite complex. So yeah, it's we should watch what happens with this, right? What do you think? What's going on with this? What do you reckon? Surely there must be some kind of master plan.
When it comes to Twitter?
Yeah.
To be honest, we're just following now, what's going on, because everything like changes and all of a sudden Elon Musk comes with a sync to the office. Like what do you do with that, right? Like
Yep.
you can, you just need to kind of continue your life. I don't think we have changed our strategy yet when it comes to Twitter. Especially in Elementor, I think that our channels, like Twitter is not our stronger channel. Like it's a little bit more professional in ways like of less of web creators, but more like, I don't know how to say it, like more technical, I would even say.
Marketeers and art tech people, yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So we keep using this channel, but we also like looking very closely what's going on there.
Yeah, likewise. I know there's a huge amount of the kind of WordPress community lives on Twitter as well as a good way of staying connected and knowing the news. So
Definitely.
yeah, we're all kind of potentially on the lookout for a new home. So if you have a solution, do let us know. Yeah. So one of the solutions might be us all just moving to TikTok, which as an elder millennial, I still find very confusing, but does come up quite often in our news because it continues to be hugely influential on how people discover and consume information. And the ways that people discover and consume information determines whether your brand gets recognized and loved and preferred when people are making purchase decisions or reading content or doing other stuff. And of course, like all the social media platforms continue to do, they are all trying to launch more and more e-commerce features. They're all trying to monetize more and more. And so TikTok, no different, is increasingly rolling out more of its shopping capabilities. This was already available in the UK and some other countries, but is now in the US as well. Again, I think the moral of the story is short form video is here to stay. Huge numbers of people, in particular younger audiences, use formats like this to discover content and brands and people and influencers. And if you're not somewhere in that space, your competitors probably are. And therefore you really have to engage to a degree, or at the very least you have to understand and make a conscious decision not to, but you cannot ignore this. And maybe not TikTok specifically, but the broad kind of revolution that's happening in these short form videos. YouTube's really pushing, TikTok's pushing, WhatsApp pushing. This is a space that is how people consume and discover. And then maybe they go on and search for something else. Maybe they come on and buy from you directly. But yeah, this is where the funnel is. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. Okay, some other tech news. A bit of AI again. Did you see this? I thought this was fascinating. Shutterstock selling AI content, right?
That's amazing what people can create by just using text. I was trying it as well, and there are other competitors as well, not in Shutterstock, but having DALL-E images being sold on Shutterstock is a really interesting business, I might say, and genius, because there's like endless possibilities, right?
Yeah, isn't there just? I think one of the first things that we talked about, maybe on here actually, was when the AI image generation space started to unfold. We were like, what happens to the stock industry? Because if I'm writing a blog post and I need an image, it's probably much easier to generate one that's a really good fit for my content than it is to kind of trawl through and find one. So yeah, like these industries are going to die, but actually they've turned it right around. They've gone, can we monetize this? Can we create like an infinite image pool? Really fascinating. Really cool. And then they're doing some kind of kickback to the original artists, right? Which we'll come on to in a minute. That is very important. And then alongside that, increasingly these platforms are opening up. We talked about this a lot, both kind of text AI and image AI, but it's all been a bit gimmicky so far. It's very quickly becoming much more serious in a few ways. Like the opening up of APIs means that more tools and platforms will incorporate this. I've already seen a bunch of WordPress plugins that allow you to generate images on demand, and they're so cheap that they're close enough to be free. The underlying technologies are getting better and better. So we are due to get GPT-4 in February, which will make text generation much better. And better text generation means better image generation as well. This is all growing really quickly. I think it's really important that we all keep an eye on this. However, this, I think, is where it gets interesting. And we definitely talked about this previously, that the way all of these systems work is they tear apart existing content, analyze it, and then learn to reconstruct stuff that's not really new. It's just kind of recombining the Lego blocks in different ways. And one of the systems that's been doing this for a while is Copilot on GitHub, which helps you write code. And it does that by researching everyone else's code. And increasingly, we're seeing scenarios where it's just republishing existing people's code, quite by chance, because it's reconstructing stuff. Is that copyright? How do you license that? And this is a huge question commercially, because the same applies to all the image stuff, right? Like if I train my image AI on an artist's work and then generate new images, do I owe them money for that? Maybe. And we don't know, right? There's no answer. Yeah, fascinating, right? So there's no answer to this. This is the first, I think, big public lawsuit in this kind of space, and this will inform everything that comes next. So we're watching this very closely. And then lastly, I promise, we've been waiting for the best part of a decade for Apple's long-promised search engine, because Google owns the search market with a 90-something% share. Yeah, other options exist, but they are just kind of worse versions of Google for the most part. Apple could produce something uniquely different and maybe better. Like they have an app ecosystem that works differently. They have a data ecosystem that works differently. They could do some really smart stuff that built a fundamentally different search engine. However, Apple hired a bunch of ex-Googlers who'd built a search product, went on and spent a bunch of time incorporating them into their teams, and they just quit and came back to Google and said, Apple are nowhere near it. So we are still sat waiting on maybe one day this happens, but for now, we are stuck with Google. So keep up your SEO and don't worry about doing it in 2 different systems for now. Lastly, no, I said the last one was lastly. Sorry, we'll get there. We did some updates. WooCommerce, Yoast WooCommerce SEO plugin now lets you define the material of products, which I know doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but it is a big thing for structured data and schema.org, and plays a big role in the Merchant Center connector stuff, can help you get richer results, can help search engines understand your content better. This stuff is really critical. I know it's tedious admin and micromanagement, but it's worth going through and filling this out. We built it for a reason. It is super impactful. And then lastly, if you haven't got these things yet, i.e. Yoast SEO WooCommerce or Yoast SEO Premium, etc., we just launched our Black Friday sale. And I can tell you that the process of launching it on our website went perfectly well and was completely streamlined, and nothing went wrong. And everything's great. We're Black Friday sale now on, etc. And we're planting trees for transactions, which I thought was pretty cool. So go check that out. And then, come back next month and we'll do another one of these. We know we do these every month. Right. Now we get interesting. Now we get to the good stuff. Let's talk about performance. This is why everyone's here, right? Because their websites are slow and they want advice and tips and tricks. So we had some vague questions, didn't we, that I threw together, and you had some thoughts. Where do we start? I'm just finding those. Okay, yeah. So let's start with asking you, why should people care? Why is performance important? If people are here and they're like, I was only here for the news and now I'm going, convince them to stay, I reckon.
It's funny that this question, I think that all of us, it's a given answer for us. We know that performance is important, but not all of the web creators and business owners really understand when it comes to why it's really important, right? So I think what we need to understand, if we put SEO aside for a second, let's put it aside for a second. Good performance equals better user experience. Yeah. This is the fundamental, I think, thought that people should go with, right? So a website that loads fast and allows visitor to interact quickly and creates a better experience, it's more likely that you will enter a website that goes smoothly. You can run from pages to one page to another. You can click and you get an action and you get something that's happening immediately. You will have a better experience. Also, research shows that the higher the performance of your website is, the higher the conversion of your website. There are different research that shows that. But essentially, I think the key is to think about the user experience, and this is what Google and other search engines also start to put more focus on, right? So if your page doesn't run smoothly and it's very slow, people can get really frustrated and can bounce from your website, right? And then they will get tired of I just wanted to look something, I just wanted to purchase something, and nothing is working well. So I maybe go to the competitor that offers the same, but at least I will be assured that everything is going well. And obviously, if you have a slow website and it doesn't interact well, it can also harm your brand, right? Like people see like big brands or shops or any store, it could be small to big. They want something to run smoothly. They want to have a good experience. So
Yeah.
I think first and most relevant is obviously to understand that good user experience will get you higher ranked on Google. There are other obviously parameters such as the relevancy of your content that we've been talking a lot, and Google has been putting more focus. But it's also reflected in the way the parameters or the metrics that they use changed. So they changed the metrics to show you a little bit more about how we care about the user experience, and rather than is your site is loading fast, is it good enough? Is it good enough? It's more about relevancy and bring users from the search engine that's looking for some topic to provide them with the best website that can provide them with the best user experience. So
And to do
I
that
think
fictionally,
this
right?
is like the
Fictionlessly.
really bottom line, I would say, of this question.
Yeah.
User experience, more conversions, and obviously it comes from higher performance.
Nice. And yeah, like certainly all the research I see around the connection between 100 milliseconds and the difference to your bottom line every single time, like the money. And I guess I'm thinking your point on the whole journey is quite important, that you've searched for something on Google and Google wants you to have a good experience, to find what you're looking for and for that to be streamlined. And if the bit where you click the search results, you're then sat getting annoyed, then that's a bad service from Google. Like, even though it's the website that's slow and not Google, the experience is poor. So then I'm more likely to use other services. I think the other thing that I think about a lot is it's not just that conscious frustration, it's the unconscious, subconscious frustration and distraction as well. So when you look at conversion rate optimization and how do I get people to spend, one of the biggest tenets of that is keep people on task, really understand what they're trying to do and remove distractions and keep them focused. And if my website takes 2 seconds to load, that's a lot. I'm unlikely to go, I'm really angry that this is slow, but I might look out the window, or I might wonder what's for lunch, or I might think about watching some Netflix later. All of these things start to creep in, and then I'm less likely to spend, and then I might go to competitors, as you say. So yeah, like it's really, really, truly important. And then you go, oh, also good for SEO for most of the same reasons. So yeah, this stuff is critical.
Exactly. So I think that's what I said, like that Google understood that good user experience should be promoted higher. So performance is one of them, as we said, and you can definitely check out the different. We will talk later more about it in the next questions.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so if it's important, why do people not get it right? Why do they not do it? Why are most websites slow? What's going wrong? Where should people be looking? That was hard to say.
No. So there are many reasons. It really differentiates from one website to another. It depends how you build it, in which tools you use. There's a bunch of stuff, but if I can point out just a few that, let's say from my experience, the most common ones, I would say that a lot of people are not thinking of. They think that the more the merrier when it comes to websites.
Yep.
Right? Let's put animations. Let's put high def images. Let's make everything interactive, and let's put a lot of content. And this will bring us the higher rank because it's relevant. It's a good user experience. They will stay because the interactiveness is really nice. But alas, it's not good for performance, meaning like there is probably a DOM bloat, like the code output is like really heavy because you put this and that and that. So I think from my experience, when it comes to especially like website builders, a lot of people, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault because there are very big differences between one to another, and it's not easy to always adjust yourself from one tool to another. But using like best practices and using as less as, let's call it like building blocks, widgets, and building blocks, I mean like sections and columns or containers from the other side. Like, so using as less as you can, and still there are technologies that will allow you to create the same layout and even better, but with less code, like Flexbox containers or CSS.
I was about to say, this is your secret sauce, isn't it? So this is what Elementor is doing, is less stuff, but more cleverly constructed.
Exactly. You can still lay out your stuff and add also like animation or stuff, but you will have less code, less wrappers, less everything. So DOM bloat is one of the, I would say the majority of like the mistakes, I would say, that people do. I must say that website builders, not all of them put a lot of effort in order to educate well their users, because maybe a professional and more advanced user might know all the, the tricks and shticks, but a new user is not very familiar with it. So we need to help them. So this is one also important thing. Another point that is very classic, and I think we all familiar, but still I see people doing it so much, is optimizing your images and videos.
Oh yeah.
Even though that WordPress is compressing your images somehow, and when you upload the video as well, but people are not really understand that they don't need always like this high resolution for everything, like maybe on backgrounds, but still you can compress it. So people should think more and like give more a focus on like the assets and the visuals that they upload, and don't trust only WordPress to compress it for you. Try to see like that it's not like more than 1 mega. It really depends. I don't want to say like the perfect sizes because it can be differentiated.
Yeah, it depends.
I don't want to get into this politics. But yeah, this is about images.
Yeah, no, that's a big one for sure.
Yeah, sorry.
No, just agreeing with you. Like images are often one of the big bottlenecks, and yeah, managing those can be a big difference.
Definitely. Yeah. Another thing I would say that is, and not just because I'm from Elementor, a lot of users use a lot of plugins for this and plugin for that. Like, so for very like, for I would say small features or small optimizations, they use so many. They think they will add them, it will help more and more and more. But I think the opposite, it's quite the opposite, right? So you can use, and it's good to use, like you should use plugins like obviously like Yoast that will help you to improve your SEO. And if you need like some performance or caching, that's also okay. But I think finding one, and really not only because it's Elementor, we see it, like if you have more plugins, they need to talk with each other, they need to comply with each other. It can create such a mess that by the time that your DOM is loaded, like by the plugins, like you, so I would say try to find obviously a builder and a website builder that and plugins that work first together, like really well. This is really important. And try to not install stuff that you don't necessarily need. This is, I think, kind of a trade-off. Like, don't over install stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So like, I think there's a fairly obvious rule that the more things you have on a page, the more code you are shipping and the longer that's going to take to load and the more stuff they're doing. But then, yeah, to your point, critically, these things need to interact. And if you've got 3 different plugins which are loading 3 different sets of JavaScript, which all have to load before everything else can happen, every single thing you add to that is going to compound it. So yeah, you might have a site that loads really fast and has 100 plugins, but that's unlikely. Whereas if you have maybe 3 or 4 really solid, really well-developed kind of architectural plugins that all work together, that employ teams of developers who know what they're doing, you're probably going to be safer. So there's this, I guess this is part of the question of the trade-off between flexibility and performance, right? The more moving parts you have and the more you want to be able to drag and drop and tinker and tweak and change, that's going to come with the cost of loading more stuff to be able to do that. So less is quite often more, or at least better and faster. So it's, yeah, that trade-off's tricky to manage.
Exactly. And some people think that they will install more plugins, they will have more control. Like, I will have more control on this and more control on that. But essentially, when you have so many plugins, you lose the control of your entire website because you need to update them and this and to see like the scheme of how it works. So I would say, yes, stay with what you really, really need and make sure that your plugins really integrate well together. A lot of plugins in the ecosystem work together to make it work good, such as Yoast and Elementor, for example. It's like an integration that works flawlessly. So
yeah, that's the dream. Nice. Okay. What time are we on? 1:22. Should we could move some Q&A, or we could chat through some more? What haven't we talked about? I think we touched everything on my list of stuff we wanted to chat through. Oh, there was one interesting question there, which is you touched on this. You mentioned that these kind of metrics and the performance measurement systems evolving and changing. What's next? Where's it going? Like, what if people are starting to think about this and get on top of it? What is where should they be aiming? What does 2023 look like as a roadmap?
So in case of when it comes to roadmap, first of all, like I mentioned, my first, let's call it like near future suggestion would be learn more about Flexbox containers and CSS grid and other kind of a structure, the ways to structurize your website when it comes to website builders. Because it's not only the future, it exists already. Like, we use it in code, but website builders only lately started to use this kind of techniques, right? Like, so they started to use more Flexbox, CSS grid, other divs. But in this, like, really, really improves the performance of the website. We saw it like in Elementor, moving from columns and sections to containers, dropped almost 20%. Obviously, there are other stuff you need to check, but it could be very significant. And
nice.
the other thing I would say, if it's okay,
yeah,
think more about static websites.
Oh, interesting. Yep.
So lately we can see in the WordPress ecosystem more headless CMSs, like WordPress CMSs, or like static that Elementor have. And it might not be relevant for every case, I would say, like, but it really can help a lot of the cases. So basically, for those who are not aware, static pages are just a technology in which you can create a full website. And the technology, for instance, like static, can take these pages and convert them into static pages. So there is no server side. So it's like really quick. It's like top performing, and it's like really unhackable and very scalable. So static pages, it's also, I think, in the future, it's not here totally yet, but it's there and it's available for you. So I would say it's an amazing thing to choose, especially if you're a big enterprise.
Yeah, it's definitely doesn't work for every website, and only for kind of certain sizes and categories, but it's a really interesting approach. And we're really good friends with the people at Static. I know a few people who run sites on Static, and they go, I want to use WordPress to construct my site, but not then, and then I want to get rid of WordPress. I just want my site to be done. And if I want to edit it, then I can bring WordPress back and plug it in, but then take it away again. And then, yeah, the performance, the security, it's a really interesting approach.
Really you do use WordPress. Like, you use WordPress to obviously to create the content and like manage your plugins and whatever you need to do. It's just a little bit converted to a different kind of technology, which is static, and it's really amazing. So
yeah, really nice.
Awesome. Let's go to Q&A.
Yes, we love this bit.
We have a lot of questions, and we have some questions that are receiving a lot of upvotes that are actually about some stuff that was covered in the news. So I would like to start.
People are listening.
Those two. Yeah, people are listening to what you're saying, Jono. If you didn't know that by now,
Sheesh.
I mean, we're doing this for a while.
Very odd.
Let's start with Adi's question, and I think Anne's question that's below the first one. So the second question really ties into that one. Adi's question is, when will this reduced focus on links happen?
Yeah, so then they're pretty vague on that for obvious reasons. They don't want people to manipulate, and they've been hinting at this as a general direction for a decade now. But now for them to come out and say it explicitly would suggest they're putting the gas on. I think it's still an aspiration rather than a deadline. But certainly, if I were building my SEO strategy and my brand, and I had a finite amount of time and budget and resource, I would not be putting all of my energy into how do I get more links. I would be putting it into how do I build a brand. And how do I create resources that people engage with that solve their problems? And how do I compete and differentiate, not just on price, but on value and retention and yada, 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 and all the good stuff. So you probably still need links. You probably still need to get links and have a website and PR strategies that earn attention. But the long game is less of that for sure. Sorry, that's very vague, but yeah.
No, I think that answers both Adi's and Anne's question, because Anne's question was, what should I focus on? Then I think you answered that correctly with retention, building a brand, making sure your opinion adds something to
all the boring hard work.
Yeah. Would you say, Anne is mentioning authority, would you say that's a single signal to focus on, or?
That's interesting. People worry about this a lot. I think if you're doing good stuff and differentiating and being valuable, etc., then people will naturally link to your website. They'll naturally tweet about it. They'll naturally find it. They will talk about it. You're probably much better off having 1,000 real humans with opinions like and recommend your brand than you are about getting an authority link from some big website. Like maybe, ideally, a bit of both would be good. So The Guardian and the BBC and Wikipedia going, check out this is great. But so is a whole bunch of real people going, I genuinely love this and endorse it and refer it. The SEO industry focuses on authority too much because that's where the money is. I can go pay an agency to run a PR campaign to try and get some Guardian links and then forget or not bother to go, actually, I ought to have a better product and I ought to have better customer services and get some good reviews and yada, yada. So yeah, a bit of both maybe.
Cool. I think this answers the question for everyone. One thing that was mentioned was a new WordPress version, and we've gone over this already a little. You've gone over this already a little bit during the session. But Asaf, this person, Ekaterina, I hope that I pronounce this right, is also asking something about Elementor. I'm not sure if you have the question there, so I will read it, and then you might have an answer for her.
Thank you.
Or this person, I don't know. So the question is, I have not updated to WordPress 6.1.1 yet. I still have 6.0.3. Is it bad? And I haven't updated Elementor either, because I'm not sure if other plugins are compatible with that new version. Should I wait or not?
The main WordPress question is like, should I wait with this update or not? No, I can say safe and secure that you can feel very secure to update both of your WordPress and Elementor plugin. We work very closely also with other plugins, like third-party plugins to Elementor, obviously, to make sure that everything is tightened. Not everything is perfect, but it is going very well, and I think that you can feel 100% secure to update, especially that we've updated with lots of really nice features. So I think it will worth the while, definitely.
Okay. Let's see. We have some more questions. We got a lot of questions today. I would like to go over Dan's question about schema.
Ooh.
The question is, schema. Isn't Google smart enough to figure out by itself, or should we really put in the effort to create schema entries with or without Yoast?
Nice. No, they are not smart enough. They are smart enough to generally understand what stuff is about. But your website and your brand and your price and the color of your products and the number of things you have in your inventory and the name of your CEO and the author of the article and the address, yada, all of this stuff is specific to you and specific to the page that it's on. I think it would be grossly negligent to hope that Google understand that if you're relying on SEO as a strategy. Like, we don't hope that our consumers and audiences understand our marketing messages and our sales and our brands. We craft our narratives, and we take a great amount of care in the wording we use and where we put it and where we choose to invest our resources. Schema is the same thing. We're just marketing. We're just doing it to Google. We are explicitly managing and controlling that narrative so that we can help them to understand. And yeah, some of it they may be able to guess. Some of it they may not. Do you want to gamble on that? We know that Google is not perfect. We know that they've got a long way to go in this sort of thing. I think maybe there's a future where they get all this right automatically, but if there is, it's a long way away.
Clear. Put in the effort was the short answer. Okay, let's see. Maybe you have a question you saw in the list, Asaf or Jono, that you would like to answer. We have a lot of them.
Let's have a look. Oh, it's a good one for Asaf on favorite image compression tool, because I've definitely got a couple I can recommend as well.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't have my favorite one. So, Juno, if you have one, so that would be great as well.
Well, any that aren't your favorites, any that we should avoid, I'll let you go first.
I would say that, like, I always look for this. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I'm always looking in this, like, Google free kind of, like, free compress. So yep. I kind of embarrassed. And to be honest, I haven't been compressing images for a while, as I'm more focused on crafting messages and communicating with the user.
Nice.
So
get someone else to do it. No, that's all good. There's a whole bunch of them. Some good recommendations coming in the chat. I have two. I've just shared some links of Squoosh.app, which is built by a bunch of Googlers. It's really cool, really good for like one-off, I want to drag an image in and really tinker with it. So if you're doing kind of ad hoc stuff, that's great. If you want a WordPress plugin, there's a whole bunch of them. I've tried a load. I really like Tiny PNG. Your mileage might vary. Try a bunch. They all have different pricing models and different performance and capabilities. But this one runs really nicely in the background and just saves a whole bunch of kilobytes off your stuff as you're uploading, as you're working. But yeah, try a few, but that's my favorite at the moment.
Cool. There's a question about Google being able to read the text inside page builders. It's from Annette. I will read out loud what the question is. Is text inside a page builder also rated by Google in the same way? And does Yoast also work for the text in page builders?
Lots of moving parts. I guess a few bits. One is text on a page is text on a page. It doesn't matter where it is, more broadly doesn't matter where it is or how it's output. That said, text in the footer is probably less important to Google than text in the middle of the page. But how you're constructing your text really shouldn't matter, unless you're using something really awful. And as Asaf was talking about earlier, if it's outputting loads and loads of bloat and stuff, then that might be problematic. Yoast will read most text in most page builders, some better than others. If you find specific problems where it doesn't work very well, let us know. We'll have a look. We'll see if we can put that on the roadmap. We do work quite well with most of Elementor. There's more we can do. There's more we are planning to do. Secret. But yeah, I think generally you should be all right. Like there's no SEO downside to using a page builder really, as long as it's performant and doing some smart stuff like Elementor, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
Cool. Let's see what else we have.
Oh, some really good image optimization suggestions coming up in the chat.
Nice. I love all this audience participation. Thanks for sharing, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have a question about Google Discover. We didn't really cover that one, but it did get some upvotes. So let's try that one.
Yeah.
What should we do to receive traffic from Google Discover on a daily basis? This is about an entertainment website, and they want some new secrets. I'm not sure if we have secrets, but we might give
you know what's tips. Really good for this? What's today's topic?
Performance.
That's the secret. That's the new secret. Yeah. Faster is better. Yeah, like the correlations between speed and Google Discover eligibility, huge. Whether or not it's direct, who knows, but there's certainly some kind of overlap. What else? Big images, big images, which can be bad for speed. So manage that trade-off. Yeah, that's tricky, right? And every day is a big ask. Certainly then find out what tomorrow's news is going to be and publish the best article on it before anyone else. Be topical, be authoritative, be innovative, breaking news, have a great reputation as a journalistic outlet, have qualified expert authors, demonstrate all of that with schema, do the hard work. Tricky.
Cool. Okay, we have a few minutes left. I hope 2 questions. Let me know if you have a favorite one. I think some of the topics we already covered, so I want to skip those.
Oh, there's a good one. Right down at the bottom, there's an person saying they have a very slow mobile theme and they're going to move to a Divi or a page builder. How do you do that? So, and this is probably quite a common question, right? We've said a slow website is a bad website, and they're like, I don't know what to do. What do you do?
Well, first of all, it depends on the website builder that you use, right? Like, if I'm not sure if the person you mentioned it is using Elementor or no. No, right?
They didn't tell. They are planning to move to the Divi theme.
To Divi. Okay. Generally, it's hard for me to say, right? Because I'm from Elementor, so I would say.
I guess
like,
more broadly, right? So
we have a lightweight
slow site.
Yeah, in general.
So sorry, I couldn't hear.
So I think we can generalize the question. Like, if we work on the basis that you have a slow site and you want to do something about it, and you've gone, I'm convinced I want a page builder. How do you get from where you are to getting there?
Well, it's really hard to convert someone, like, because I can tell him like how many websites we have that like score gets like a really high score, right? First of all, before moving in general, regardless, I would recommend the person to really understand what, like, to check his website with any like speed test. Probably Google is the best to understand, but to really understand like what is the thing that slows down the websites, because he can take the same website and move it to another place and do the same mistakes again, and it will not be. There is no magic. Like there is no magic. There are differences, but no one can be a magician and make it all of a sudden like, now that I moved the entire website to Elementor, now it's like poof, it's like a rocket. You can put a rocket on a whale, but it doesn't make it a torpedo, right? So
Wow.
So I think first understand what holds your website back from being top performing, and try to solve it. Some website builders are faster than others. It depends also the theme that you chose. If you chose like a theme, it's like very heavily, and a lot of people start from a theme and then they get the website builder as part of the deal, right?
Yes, that is true.
So
okay, so I guess
themes can come also with a lot of plugins and like 3 different website builders. So try to understand like which one do you really need? Which one it's most easier for you to create what you want. It's about creating what you want and like eventually. And then obviously to use the most lighted one. There is a difference between themes, different themes in their obviously their size, the way they interact with the builders, website builders. So obviously I will always recommend Elementor, who the theme is like, it's not really a player, it's like just like an infrastructure. And then you build on top of this with the editor. But I invite everyone to first understand what are the true problems, try to fix them. And you can also compare it and use, if you really want to be like outperforming, you can export and import. There are many ways to do it, and you can do it and try to see which builders give you the best value, and the one that doesn't, just refund and do the best for your business.
Cool. Guess that's it. Start with the problem and then find a solution to your...
And then find that balance of performance, trade-off, flexibility, and get rid of a bunch of stuff you don't need.
Okay, it's almost time, so I think we're gonna close off. We have a lot of unanswered questions. We'll try to answer some in the comments of those questions. Asaf, feel free to reply to questions that you see in the Ask a Question section by comments later on. Then, Asaf, thanks for being here. Thanks for getting on
Thanks for
to
having me.
the show and sharing your
thank you.
thoughts on performance. That was really helpful. I hope a lot of people learned what to pay attention to, and also how Elementor will helping them to build a better website, better performing website. Then we have another news webinar lined up for next month. You can click the button, the shiny green thingy, to sign up for that one right now. Important notice, the environment will look a little bit different. And there's Rubber Ducks, and also Rubber Ducks. I'm a Rubber Duck as well.
Yes.
And I have a mini Yoast too. He won't be there
Nice.
next December. But it will look a little bit different. So be warned if you are confused by how Crowdcast looks. That's a new version of Crowdcast. Don't be scared. It's all fine. In next month's webinar, it will, of course, be the end of this year. And we are super happy to keep you posted on all the news throughout this year. And in the next webinar, we won't only be looking back, but also be looking towards 2023. What does that have in place for us regarding SEO and your SEO strategy? So be there if you want the flying start for your SEO in 2023. And
Nice.
That's about it. I think we can call it a day. And I want to thank everybody that was in the audience. You were great. You shared a lot of your insights, a lot of questions. Thanks for being here, and hope to see you next month.
Thank you, everyone.
Woo! Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Asaf. Thanks again.
Bye, Jono. Bye, Nienke.
Bye.